Nietzsche is perhaps most famous for making the striking claim that God is dead. He writes, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. Now, what does this mean? Straightforwardly, it seems nonsensical. God is supposed to be eternal and thus cannot die. Nietzsche's claim, however, is that God is merely a fiction created by human beings. God is merely a belief, and thus God can die when there's no good reason to believe that God exists. So what is the justification for claiming that God is a fiction? The answer lies in the function of the idea of God. According to Nietzsche, the idea of God was created to help people handle widespread and seemingly senseless suffering. The ancient Israelites, who brought forward the Judeo-Christian God, lived in horrible conditions. For many generations, they were enslaved, beaten, and killed. Under such immense duress, it's perfectly reasonable for them to find some reason to explain their suffering and hope that those responsible for inflicting suffering will be punished. The idea of God plays that role. The idea of God emerges to provide light in a dark world. From antiquity to today, most people turn to God when awful tragedies happen, when loved ones are killed by active shooters, trapped in cities bombarded by hurricanes, or diagnosed with cancer. For many, belief in God provides strength to endure such misery. Belief in God also provides hope that when our loved ones pass away, we can live with them again for eternity. Belief in God ensures that no loss is inconsolable, no injustice unrequited, and that we can finally have everlasting peace, no matter the misery that we have to go through to get there. For Nietzsche, then, there's a natural explanation for belief in God. God is a psychological fabrication created to soothe distress, ease trauma, and provide companionship in the face of suffering. But Nietzsche says, we don't need God to address these challenges. Rather than trying to escape suffering by embracing some otherworldly entity, Nietzsche thinks we should utilize suffering to better ourselves. A truly meaningful life turns on achieving personal excellence, and such excellence requires overcoming struggle. People like Nelson Mandela, Emma Goldman, and Ludwig van Beethoven achieved greatness by facing down hardship. Nothing truly exceptional in this world comes merely from peace and satisfaction. As Nietzsche says, quote, the discipline of suffering, of great suffering. Do you not know that only this discipline has created all enhancements of man so far? Belief in God sustains weakness. Here's the Bible, quote, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, end quote. Walking with God for Nietzsche is walking with a crutch. If we face suffering on our own, we are stronger and we have greater potential for excellence. Interestingly, Nietzsche holds that many modern atheists continue to believe in God, but they don't recognize it. Quote, this deed, that is the death of God, is still more remote to them than the remotest stars, and yet they have done it themselves, end quote. Atheists often fail to understand the true extent of atheism. How could this be? The answer is this. Atheists continue to embrace traditional moral principles. For example, the principle that we should respect people or reduce suffering, and these principles imply that all people are morally equal. In fact, Nietzsche claims that belief in God is the only way to ensure moral equality. After all, if God were to exist, then we would all be equal as God's children. But what makes us equal if God is dead? For Nietzsche, nothing. Why think a freedom fighter in Syria, for example, is morally equal to a Ku Klux Klan member in Wisconsin? Our capacities and abilities to respect others, to feel pain, to empathize, and so on are vastly different. Thus, we lack universally shared characteristics necessary for moral equality. Atheists continue to believe in God as long as they believe that people are morally equal. Nietzsche also thinks that God blinds excellence. Equality benefits the social order, invites mediocrity, and stamps out genuine individuality. The Judeo-Christian tradition values selflessness, humility, and weakness. It demands that everyone on earth should embrace these values or suffer eternal consequences. But certainly not all individuals flourish while embracing Judeo-Christian values. Some individuals are exceptionally self-affirmative, prideful, and strong. What would happen to someone such as Beethoven, for example, if at a young age he were to accept the fact that he should avoid feeling pride because it runs against God's rules? What if potentially excellent individuals were forbidden by some eternal order to feel self-affirmative, proud, and strong? Nietzsche's worry is that they might not become excellent. If potentially excellent individuals get duped into believing that everyone is equal, such that they never prioritize their needs and interests over the needs and interests of others, they might not become great. Belief in God hinders the possibility of greatness. God is dead, Nietzsche says, and advancing humanity requires defeating the vestiges of God found in traditional morality and moral equality. Nietzsche, then, is not merely an atheist. He is an anti-theist. Belief in God stifles flourishing. For Nietzsche, we should junk belief in God and focus on developing our own values, setting our own goals, and achieving personal excellence. Now, in the end, there are important questions to consider. First, which is more plausible? Nietzsche's view about the origin of the idea of God, or other accounts, such as the account that it's just true that there's really a God, and that's why people believe? Second, does belief in God indeed encourage weakness and sap self-reliance? Third, does morality require equality? And does belief in equality require belief in God? And finally, does belief in God indeed limit the development of excellence? Answers to these questions are necessary for a full evaluation of Nietzsche's provocative claims.